What's up, y'all? Today I'm gonna be playing the Legends Championship in PGA 2K25 career mode, showing y'all how I get it done, how to play this game like a beast. Uh, Give a little bit of background. My dude's a 78 overall. Play a technician build, so we're rocking these stats right now. Not too bad. Got the contact up, power up. Working on getting this all the way up here. That's the vibe there. Playing on pro difficulty. Uh, yeah, I got some wins on the years. The settings I've been using. Bumped it up to hard conditions. I'll probably bump it up to very hard at some point, but it's the vibe. So yeah, been winning some events. Just won the Valero. I think this Legends is the fake Masters because they don't got the rights. So got some wins. Got some. This was a choke, but some good finishes. That's how the season's been going. See if we can get it done. Got 4 rounds. Gonna talk through these shots. Let y'all know what's going through the brain, how to play this game the right way. So yeah, let's get into it.
2K Sports, in association with the PGA Tour, is thrilled to present the season-long race for the FedEx Cup.
All
It's
right.
the opening round of the Legends Championship right now. It looks
Yeah,
like a
so
big day out there
I feel like
for
that
the lineup.
TPC San Antonio that I just played for that last tournament, that's a hard course.
Walking with
I
us
think this
this week
course
is
is like
Jamie Koyak. John
kind of in the
McCarthy is
middle.
with us
It's
as
tough,
well.
but I think
We're going to
scoreable.
find
So
out
I
who's going to go low today. It's
think
all
I'm
coming
also
up right
1v1ing
here
Tony
next
Finau in
Saturday
this.
on 2K Sports.
But yeah, let's see
Let's get down to the first hole.
see how we do.
And now, as we focus on
So
today's action, it's worth noting the rivalry
tee shot,
continuing between
first
the
hole.
star player and
Got
Tony
this bunker on
Finau.
the right.
Many
Looks like it's a little
seasons,
bit of a
Lawler has had
downhill
one of the
shot, so
fiercest competitors in the
get a little
sport.
extra distance
Oh,
on
it
it.
is, Andrew. This
Game's
future
lagging a little
player
bit,
has been
but
so full of
got a little
confidence.
headwind, so
Promising the
goal
future
here,
for
I got the
Finau this
fade
year.
going.
But Tony
Just try and keep
Finau,
this
well, he's
up the
got
left
a
side,
not even a
ride the
full
wind a little
swing
bit.
to
Should stay out
surprise
of that
me.
bunker.
This
Put a
featured
good
player
swing on it.
better bring their A game today.
Well, our featured player has
A
their
little
work
bit,
cut out for them.
a
Taking
little
the
bit of a
first
bad
hole
swing,
lead.
but get away with it.
Oh, to
Got
see how
the
all of
big
this
close,
plays
big
out.
push combo. Kind of drew a little bit actually, but it's a good spot to be in.
Okay, Henny, what do you see
All
down
right, what
here?
we got?
Setting up here
Got a
for
little
the hole.
crosswind,
65 yards.
165 downhill, about 10 yards. So downhill 10 is gonna take off. You know, probably take off a couple yards from that. This wind should make it play a little extra. I think this 162 might not be a terrible club for this. The wind coming across my shot shape. Kind of want to start it out where I want it to start, and then it should ride the wind a little bit left to right actually. But see how this turns out. Definitely also want to make sure catching that slope if anything. Stay on that top shelf though. So see how this turns out. Good swing. Probably should hit that slope and feed down
Guessing this
nicely.
iron was the right club.
Set up a little birdie putt. All right. Didn't feed down too hot, but we'll take that. We'll take that.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that shot.
Biggest thing in this game, I think, is just getting yourself on the green, giving yourself birdie
Let's
putts.
try this
See,
VL to the
so
right hand side.
the way I kind of read putts, you have your either first half and your back half. Maybe if it's longer, I have like the first half, the middle, or first third, middle third, back third. Be kind of first half of this putt looks like it's gonna break a lot. Gonna be a little quicker, so gonna probably hit it through that break a little bit, and then the end straightens out. So I think, you know, this looks about 2 cups out. Looks like pretty good line. Trying to hit the speed right. A little underswing, didn't quite get it out enough.
We're all the way.
I don't know if I would have had it with
Here's
the
one to walk away
full
with the
swing,
par.
but take a par on the first
Taking a
hole.
look at the way things
Tap
stand, our
that in.
featured player is in a tie for second. The
Par
second hole
4, another downhill. This one kind of want to try and catch that big slope, so see if I can just hit it up here in the middle and ride it on down. Wind should keep it away from the left. Yeah, that's a good swing. See where this feeds down to. Alright. Probably want to be a little bit further left coming into this pin here, but still not a bad spot to be. Big thing here, got to get it up there on the green. Can't be down this false front, so I think this 6-iron is probably going to be the play. I think honestly with that, how downhill it is and this crosswind, this club here should probably be pretty good. We'll put a little backspin on it too. Side lie, gonna come off a little bit left, so probably won't fade too much though, the wind. I think it should be good. Yep, should get up there. Hopefully can sit a little bit, don't run out too much. Nice little look for birdie here. Another 20 foot or so. Alright, let's see, we got maybe a little bit downhill, but pretty flat. A little bit right to left. End's going to be a little slower, and it's a little faster on the right to left, so it's going to snap a little harder at the end. So maybe just put out a little touch further to the right, but I think it should be a good line. Ah, too far. Too quick. Alright. Another little par there. So, overread that one a little bit. I think the front part was straight enough. It was never going to work back, so it's kind of where the goof up was there, but can't be mad with 2 pars to start out. Got 7 miles an hour downwind, about 13 feet downhill. I think this 6 or 8-iron, about 160, somewhere around there should be good. Downwind, the ball's going to bounce up there. Not going to check quite as much, so expect a big first hop or two. I think this will probably land right around the front of the green if I hit it right. Should be a good shot, so. Alright. See if that can just bounce on up to the pin. Might be a little long even. Alright, that's a good swing there. That's what you're looking for. Pretty straight putt here, so just gonna bang it in. First birdie, 1 under. There we go. Little par 3 birdie there to the front pin. It's like Finau's not tuned too hot. Alright, so gonna be an uphill tee shot. We do have the wind with us, so I'm not too worried about the distance here. Just gotta make sure, especially with where that pin is on the left, try and keep it up on the middle, maybe right side of the fairway if we can. Should be a good swing. Keeping it a little close there is actually beneficial. Kind of keeps it right without, it's not really a hook per se. Alright, now we got a par 5. Definitely gonna go for this one. So, I mean, you can see, got kind of, everything feeds here in the green towards that pin, so the big thing is going to be kind of trying to land right around here, get to work off those slopes. This slope in the fairway is going to push me a little left, but I think this should be a decent line. Definitely don't want to be in that bunker. Bunkers are tough in this game. Yeah, I like that swing a lot. See if that feeds back there. Ride that slope. Good bounce. Ah, not quite enough rollout. Maybe the uphill killed it, or that fringe a little bit, but that's a good setup for an eagle putt. Yeah, it looks like it was kind of steep up into the pin back here, but got a nice little right to lefter. This one's, you know, pretty long, so gonna put her out pretty far. Should ride it the whole way in. Not too worried about the speed. I think we're just gonna go just a little further out. Put a good stroke on it.
This putt
See how that
stays on
does.
the line.
Work back there. All right, lagged her up there. Another birdie.
Pretty
Tap
good from
in.
that distance. Just
Can't really
wide
complain
enough
there.
left on the ball.
I think with the uphill putt there, might have needed giving it a little extra
Start of a hot
to
streak.
get it there. In this game, you kind of have to give the uphill putts a little more than the game presets for you, but not bad there. All right, so this is they got the bridge kind of like the Masters. Announcer just said signature hole. This one's all feeding down, big slope left to right, so it's gonna be into the wind. Shouldn't really bring the water into play if I just keep it up here on the shelf. Uh, but yeah, it should just be a pretty standard drive. Get her up there. Riding the rough. And this should be a nice setup. Alright, so wedges, kind of the biggest, most important aspect of scoring in my opinion. Set yourself in the fairway with a wedge. You really want to make sure you get that up and down for a birdie or par if that's what you're shooting for. I think with the downhills, you're not really taking a ton of like say in the EA game, 15 yards downhill, you'd have to give it like, you know, take 7 yards off that. But in this game, it's more like one or two. The wedges do get really affected on uphill shots, but downhill shots, they're just going to kind of come towering down more and then spin back more the more downhill it is. Especially with this wind, what we're actually probably going to want to do here is knock this down a little bit, take the spin off. So I just push, I usually just use the right stick on the spin control. I don't ever really use the left stick here. So just gonna push the right stick up, get a little extra distance on this, hopefully get through the wind, because I think with this slope we're hitting into, it's probably gonna spin a little bit with the wind and the wedge. So fairway slope, gonna kind of push it down a little bit to the right. This wind is also gonna push it a little to the right, so keep it kind of aimed left edge of the green. Get a good swing, see how this plays. Yeah, come on, get back there. All right, it's a good shot. Gonna set up a nice straight putt, a little down the hill, but shouldn't be any problem. Clean that up for a birdie. 3 under through 5, so I'll put together a nice little round here. This one, probably not gonna bring this bunker into play as long as don't pull it way right. What you definitely don't want to do is with this kind of steep slope here, not much rough. Cannot be hitting in the water here, so gonna play it safe, ride that wind, hit this little fade up against the bunker. Hopefully should get left of it, stay in the fairway. There we go. Nice drive there. Alright, short iron here. Actually, this wind might get away with the pitch and wedge. As I just said, wedges and uphill shots, gotta give it definitely a little bit extra, but only 4 yards up, or 4 feet uphill, pardon me. Not too much, so probably could hit this pitching wedge with the wind. This wind's gonna make it not go too much extra, but it's gonna take a lot of the spin off, and at least on the first bounce or two. So gonna give it a big first bounce up to the hole, maybe second bounce, and then it's gonna start checking. So you kind of want to play it like that, about maybe 5 yards of bounce. So where I'm kind of lined up, get about 4 or 5 yards on the hop, try and hit it about 5 yards short of the hole here. I got the right stick pushed up a little bit to take some of the spin off, give it a little extra. Ride this wind a little bit, kind of aim right at the hole. Got this slope feeding down right to left. So try and get this up there, get a little putt for birdie, but definitely not too sure if this will be the right distance. So let's give it a swing, see what we got. Pushed it a little bit. Looks like the distance is good. Just gotta make sure it doesn't feed down. All right. It's a nice setup for birdie. Not the easiest hole. Pretty straight putt here. Gonna just leave it a little out to the left just because that bit at the end. But This should be pretty straight. I also gave it a little extra. Ah, man. Thought it would break a little more at the end there. Again, overread it a little bit. Probably could just hit that straight at the cup. Could have noticed it was a little left to right actually at the very, very start of the putt, but didn't think that would actually affect it. Guess I was wrong there. So heading into the seventh, big uphill par three here, 3 under. Let's see. So 22 feet uphill is definitely pretty significant. So with a low lofted club like this, gonna I bet you hit more right around here, and you got the wind that's gonna take it. But hitting a 3 wood, so it should run out a good amount, and got this slope feeding back here. So the goal, it's gonna be kind of land it right up here, feed it back, try and get back to that pin. I think you're gonna have to aim maybe right edge of this bunker. Hopefully, start of the shot shape's gonna take it out a bit right, but then the wind should bring it back a little left. The thing with hitting the fade, or my fade, a righty would be hitting a draw into the right to left wind, is when you hit it into the wind, it takes A little distance off, but B, it also actually kind of makes the wind and the spin affect it less because you're hitting it against the wind at the start. And so it's not either catching the wind or getting your fade spin. So it takes a little bit for that to kick in, actually. But I think this should be fine, fine line. And if it ends up being a little more of a straight ball, which it won't, a little too much club, might find its way in the bunker. That's all right. It's gonna be a bit of a tough bunker shot, but it's a tough par three here. So let's see if we can get up and down. I think a big thing with the bunkers, I don't actually have the pick unlocked or power pick either of those shots since I've only got this 78 overall. Definitely pull the spin meter pretty far down, and it takes off about 80% of what you're aiming. So this will probably land more back here around 16 yards if I put it at 20. And then it's going to kick forward a good amount, especially off this downslope. So I'm almost going to aim kind of try and hit this in the fringe. Hopefully take some off of it. See if I can manage not to shank it. These ones are a little tough to get the aim right. Ah, kick down. This might feed all the way down to the bottom of the green. Gonna have to just get out of here with a little two putt and a bogey. It's too bad. But that's what you get, when you punish yourself. Hit into a bad bunker like that. So I'm gonna give this a little extra since it's pretty long and steep up the hill. Right to left all the way. See if we can get this close. Aimed a little further out as well, just to make sure I don't miss it on the low side too far. Not too bad. All right, dropped a shot there, back to 2 under, but we got a little par four here. See if we can get one back. Looks like maybe a front pin. Kind of taken away from that bunker, so try and keep it on the right side of the fairway here. Just hit a nice normal drive. All right, little slope on the fairway here. Gonna push it a little to the left. This wind is also obviously gonna hold the ball up a bit, and then we're hitting uphill. So this 6-iron hitting its stock is probably, if if it were a shot where I could land it up here and get some run out, I think it would be a good shot. But with these slopes here and kind of how I know this is all going to feed back into the bunker, probably going to have to hit this 5-iron, we'll spin it back a little, take some off of it. And I think that will hopefully get to maybe land here, but actually be able to get the run out, get up the hill. So probably gonna have to aim a little right, even though the wind might kind of hold it up on the right side. Definitely don't want to have this fairway slope push it too far left and take me into that bunker. So aim just a little right of the pin, give it a good swing, see where it lands. Yeah, see, so that slope in the fairway definitely took it to the left a little bit, but I think with the way this green feeds, should be a pretty good shot here. And again, that 6-iron would have been well short. Obviously took a bit off that 5, but All right, not gonna make the same mistake as I did on that first hole. Obviously, I moved a little bit right of center, but don't want to overread this, give up the hole. It's gonna be a pretty straight putt. Oh man, I think I pushed it a little bit. I didn't actually catch the shot feed, but might have pushed it a little bit there because I don't think that should have traveled left off the start. So the fairways on this course, they definitely run out a bit. It's gonna be tough to keep this one with the wind and kind of my shot shape from running into those bunkers. So gonna have to play this pretty far to the right side. Gonna shape it a little bit more straight. Try and keep the fade off of it as much as possible. And then just try and hit a good straight one. Ah, see, yeah, it's gonna peel off. Hopefully that'll run out short of that bunker. Right in between them. All right. Got away with it. Another reachable par. 5 here. Gonna be uphill. So again, this is one of those where you're gonna have to give it some extra club because it's gonna bang into that hill, take some distance off. Looks like this green kind of all has some backstops. It's gonna not really feed too much one way or the other, but maybe it looks like a little bit left to right back towards this pin, which is good for us. And then you have this wind that's gonna push it pretty significantly right to left, depending on how the shot is. So I think the play is kind of, you see this blue line is starting towards the left edge of that bunker. I think that'll be a good play, and then kind of ride the wind back over to the left. And then I'm gonna hit the 3-wood because I think hitting this 5-wood, it says it's gonna land up here, but I know that's really gonna maybe land here, probably get killed by the slope, not actually get up there, and it might even roll back into the bunker or just down. So we don't want that. Gonna hit this, aim it how I just mentioned. Should be a pretty flat lie on the fairway. And that's a good swing.
This one's left of the green.
Might run through a bit, landed on the green actually instead of hitting the slope, but this green is not gonna let it run through, so we like that. So I just pulled back my distance on this putt a little bit as it's pretty steep downhill.
To the right.
I think you really want to do that mostly when it's a putt like this where you can just tell that like it's downhill even past the hole, and so it's never really gonna stop. If it stopped being downhill like here, and then it had some time to flatten out, I think the aim the game gives you would be pretty good. But with this, you kind of want to eyeball it a little more. So I think I'm honestly gonna do it about 22 feet, and the more you pull it back, the more you have to account for the slope because you're hitting with less power. And so whatever aim point you pick, you have to kind of adjust it for that. So gonna aim pretty significantly to the left here because I'm hitting a pretty soft putt, and it's gonna feed pretty hard early left to right. So see how this goes. So we got feeding, should straighten out a little bit, slow up near the hole, and that'll set up another pretty easy birdie putt. Got a little juice on it, but nothing to really worry about there. All right, up to 4 under, tied with Ryan Moore here, having a good start through 6. He now struggling, got a big lead on him. All right, back 9 here, starting out with the par 4, bit of a dog leg left. We got this downhill tee shot, and so I'm thinking, especially with this wind, I can try and kind of hold it up against the wind and cut this corner a little bit, get the run out. Should run out a bit considering I'm hitting driver on a downhill. So it's actually the close kind of makes it draw a little bit against that wind, but should be a good tee shot. Probably set up a wedge short iron here. All right, got ourselves in the fairway here. Set up pretty nicely. So we got 149. Nothing to really worry, like slope on the fairway a little bit left to right, so gonna have to aim a little left to adjust for that. Especially, I think you really want to pay attention to that when it's like this, where I'm hitting a shot that's going to start out kind of to the right. You got the wind moving left to right, and you got the slope moving left to right. So all those are going to kind of start this ball out a little bit to the right, and then it's going to push left to right with the wind and with the slope. And that actually works out pretty well for this hole because I think I'll be able to land it, somewhere up around here and have it feed with this slope left to right down to the hole. But with that being said, I'll have to aim out pretty far to the left just to ensure that if I miss right, I'm not missing way down here and feeding it down off the green. So my aim is probably going to be around here. And as far as club selection, I think with the hurting wind, this won't quite be enough to get there. But this 8 iron would probably be a bit too much actually. I think even taking some spin on it, it might land around here, which wouldn't be terrible, but it would probably kick up and roll around here. So I'll probably stick with the 9 iron, aim it up here, and then give it a little bit of a D-loft with taking the spin off. So hit something like this. Ah, bad rhythm there, so that's going to be short. That was one of my probably worst swings so far in this video. But you see, even then, setting up for not a terrible miss. And again, as you can tell, if the 9 iron was hit with under hit and it ends up, close to pin high, the 8 iron probably would have been too much. So don't hate it. And we have a big left to right breaker here. This is one where this speed that the game's given me, it's probably going to run a little bit past the hole if I hit it how I hit it. But I think I can live with that. I'm not going to mess with the speed too much. Just try and get this line right because, I think you're more used to the the speeds that the game gives you and just getting the lines right. If you're always messing around with how far the distance on the putt is, I think that can kind of mess with your head. So I usually try and keep it to what the game gives me. If I have to move it based on a really uphill or downhill putt, I will. But on this one, we'll keep it 34 feet. Probably played it out about 2 boxes for how much this slope is. Might be a little much, honestly, because it's not the most severe, but I think I can live with this. Should kind of be a slow putt at the end. Yeah, I'm actually liking this line. Might miss low, actually. So, as I said before, kind of expected that to run a little long, but coming back up the hill, I'm going to put a little extra foot, and then you have to actually aim these. You have to be a little comfortable aiming these putts out outside the hole. It's going to slope the whole way, break the whole way, so you can't aim it at the cup. It's about maybe a cup and a half out. Catches the edge. There you go. Nice little par there to start the back nine. See if we can get this down to, 8 or 9 under, maybe 10 under. All right. Par 3 11th. A little uphill. Got this 2-tier green action working, and then everything kind of feeds left to right. Obviously, you got these bunkers on the front left that you want to avoid, so nice design here. Makes it a little tricky to get to this pin back here. Got 200 yards uphill, so if there wasn't this slope to worry about and this were all just kind of a flat green, I think the play would be hit this shot. With this wind, I'm a little worried that the 5 iron's going to come out a little hot and just kind of run through the green. So I'm actually going to pull the left stick down, add a little trajectory to it, and then add a little spin to it. This still, in my mind, might get a little long, but I definitely want to make sure I'm hitting a club that, if it does hit this slope for whatever reason, gets up here and will clear this bunker. So gonna aim a little out to the left just to make sure that we're staying kind of on the top shelf. And then hopefully this wind doesn't add too much. So I think when you're dealing with the wind and kind of thinking about where to aim, it's good to look at where your blue line starts and then kind of think about the direction of the wind. So I know this is a straight down wind, but my direction is going to start a little to the right. And so I'm actually going to aim kind of have it right at the hole. Hopefully the wind doesn't keep it out to the right too far, because then it would kind of feed away from the pin. So hit this shot here. pulled it a little bit, but it looks like it's right at the pin. See if it can stop up there close. Add a little spin to it. All right, so it's a little left of the pin, but I think that's not too bad. Got a bit of a double breaker. Obviously not much break either way, but a little right at the start, a little left at the end. So trying to learn from myself earlier. Just keep this one right at the hole. See if I can hit it straight. And that should go right in. Nice two there. Get to 5 under. All right. Scoreable par 5 here. Downwind, downhill, big speed slot. Probably can drive this one about 330 here. See if I can just hit it straight. Ride the wind, ride the hill down there. That should be a good shot. Give me a big first bounce. Stay right. Oh, yeah. This might get out to 360. Man, that's big. All right. Let's get a little eagle here. Another downwind, downhill shot. So you're really going to want to make sure you can land this. With the water here, it's scary, but you got to get this land as close to the front of the green as you can because it will hop big, run out big. So I think when you get to the mid to long irons, you can think of the wind as about 1-to-1. So 192, I'm thinking 182 with the wind, and then you get the downhill. It'll probably be a 177-ish shot. Something like this might even get to the hole. So as much as I don't love it, I think the 7-iron could be the play. And we're going to hope that this wind juices it. I'm going to give it a little extra with the right stick. Just thinking, give it an extra yard or two. And I don't feel too bad about this because, my cursor is right up against the water. And everything that I have working with me says it should go longer than that. So shouldn't really bring the water into play here as long as you get the rhythm right. Always want to make sure you're getting your rhythm and your power accurate or else none of the math matters. And then the slope, gonna feed a little bit to the left off the start if I hit it just, right at the pin. So keep it a little left. I think this should be a good shot. Ride the wind. Yeah, I really like that line. See if I can get to bounce right at the front. Maybe hit the pin. Oh, almost an albatross. Still a little long there, but that's about as close as you can get. I maybe could have taken kept the spin onto it, but you get a little straight downhill eagle putt. The slightest bit right to left at the start, maybe. So I'm going to just add a little bit to the right there, but this should be straight down the hill. See if we can put a big bird in there. Very nice, very nice. Get to 7 under through 12. It's been a nice round. Had the one little hiccup on the par 3, but cruising so far. So got another par 4 here. Another fairway bunker. Another downwind tee shot. Pretty downhill, about 30 feet. So you should get some extra carry out of this, especially with the wind. I'm thinking with the shot shape and with how this wind is right to left, I can kind of take it at the left edge of this bunker and it should miss as long as I don't pull it. And at the end of the day, you'd rather miss into the fairway bunker than fade it a little too far to the left and then end up in the water, costing yourself a shot. So I'm just going to play it kind of safe. Hopefully it rides the wind, stays out of the sand, which I think it just did. So great tee shot there. Should be position A. Can't really hit it much better than that. Another wedge in hand, so another big scoring moment here. Obviously done a lot of scoring today, but you really want to make sure that you capitalize on the wedges as much as you can. So let's figure out all the factors into this one. Got 121, 3 feet uphill, so it's maybe 122 on the true shot. Then you bring in 7 degrees or 7 miles an hour wind. That's probably going to give you an extra maybe 2, 3 miles an hour, considering you're hitting a pretty lofted wedge. It's not quite going to be a 1-for-1 like mid and long irons are. So probably about 50% of that as far as yardage. So I think maybe you're down to 119, and then you got to think about you're getting a big first bounce with the wind, and you're also hitting into a downslope. So what I'm gonna do here, take some spin or add some spin, sorry, pulling the right stick down, and then I'm gonna still take a little bit off of it. Seeing how this green feeds down, I'm gonna aim a little right of the pin. Hopefully it should kind of bounce and feed down a little bit right to left, and then the slope is actually on the fairway gonna shoot me pretty hard to the left. So I'm actually gonna aim kind of towards the right edge of the green, and then hopefully with this wind and the slope, give it a little extra too. This should be all right. I'm almost a little worried this might still end up left of the pin based on this slope in the fairway, but hopefully it should be all right. Yeah, see, the wind's gonna kind of push it, but I think we got it just about right. Big first bounce, and that checks, rolls right up there. So execute that shot to perfection, tap in birdie, and that's kind of how you want to be thinking about your wedges. You want to make sure you're thinking about all the factors, hitting your number, and then just put a good swing on it. Should all work itself out. All right, long par five here into the wind, so bit of a par five philosophy here. First of all, gonna just hit this tee shot, keep it right of that fairway bunker. Nothing fancy there, but something to think about here, and not that I'll really have a choice on this shot, but say this was a 300-yard hole. You really want to make sure you have those approach shots with wedges as much as you can compared to, say, a 50, 60-yard pitch if you don't have the spinner shot unlocked, because the pitch is just more run out, tougher to control, and you'd rather be hitting an approach shot. And so you really don't want to be leaving yourself within, I'd say, 40 to 60 yards of the hole, unless you have a ton of green to work with and you're able to run it out, about 10, 15 yards up to the hole. Because the pitch is just a little inconsistent compared to these approaches, or if you're within 35, I think you can hit the flops. So you want to make sure you're giving yourself approaches with the wedges or flop shots on the par fives. Otherwise, scoring is gonna be a little tough. And that only obviously goes for if it's not reachable in two. If it's reachable in two, just bang it up there, try and get up and down. But just a little philosophy there. So back into another wedge shot. This one we got pretty significant uphill. So if you're taking the wind out of it, I would say 91 with 8 feet uphill. You probably want to place around 94, 95 with a 60 degree. And then thinking about the wind, I'm going to max this out to 97. You could honestly probably hit this 56 just with the way these slopes are, because I bet the 56 would probably get killed by the wind by about 5 yards and land maybe here, and kind of rip off. So that would be one way to play it, or you could play it, get to 97, push the right stick up, and kind of try and hit it through the wind. But I'm thinking this might actually not be enough, so I will actually hit that 56, and I'm gonna just add a little spin to it, not too much, because don't want it to rip too hard. And then again, the wind is just ever so slightly left to right as well, so gonna make sure that with this slope and everything, my blue line is kind of aimed where I want it to be, and it should kind of get taken back a little bit left to right, especially with this slope. So try and get the power right. See if we can get this to rip. It's actually gonna land right up near the hole. Little rip there, so didn't land as far back as I thought, but that meant it didn't rip as hard as I thought it would need to either. And we leave ourselves a little 5-foot birdie putt. So you get a lot of these kind of 5 to 8 foot sliders on this game. And again, you just gotta be comfortable aiming them about a cup out, knowing that it will snap and it's gonna be a bit of a slower pace. So just trust it. And in saying that, I just totally whipped. A little embarrassing there, but you know, it wasn't the biggest slope, so I guess I could have played a little safer, and I was pretty close. But what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Another downhill, downwind tee shot. Not gonna waste too much time explaining over that one. Try and land it on the top side of the fairway. Let the slope feed it down. Pretty consistent. So got another fairway slope right to left. This one's gonna be one of our most severe yet, so definitely gonna have to aim this one pretty far out to the right. And then you got another one of these false front greens. So downwind, downhill again. Another one of these type of shots. I think the play here is going to be try and get it to land a little out to the right of the pin and maybe feed it off this slope where this other tier starts up there. See if we can feed it off right to left and then probably leave about, 15 footer about here. So for club selection, I think it'll probably be this 8 iron, and it's a bit more lofted, so the wind won't add as much. Probably add about 6 yards, and then the hill should add about 5. So I bet this will fly about 172, 3, somewhere around there. Hopefully get a little bit of run. See how this goes. Hopefully that fade works it back. Ah, a little long. Hopefully we can get to stop up there. Not too shabby. Gonna be a bit of a left to right breaker, I'm sure. About 25, 30 feet. Bit downhill. So I think, you just kind of have to think about off the face of the putter, where do you want this to start? I think for me, it might be about the left third of this second box here. Maybe about the middle. It's going to be a little quick coming down this hill, so the break is going to not affect it quite as much. But it's a pretty significant break, especially off the start, so it should pull to the right kind of hard. Decent line, see if it gets in there. Ah, just missed it. Scared the hole. Alright, this is one that I was kind of talking about where, like, you just got to be comfortable hitting it outside the hole. That time I didn't put it as far out, so didn't miss it. But bring ourselves into the 16th hole. Still 8 under here. This one, you're going to want to add a pretty significant amount of club, just considering you got 15, 16 feet uphill, and then you got 9 miles an hour into the wind. So I'm thinking that's going to add about 10, 15 yards, and then it's also not going to get much rollout because you're kind of hitting A, into a bit of a slope here, and B, you're hitting into the wind. So you're definitely going to take that run out. So I think the play might honestly be this 8 iron. 162 with the slope, it probably flies about 158. The wind, probably about 152. So going to want to add some spin to this, get down to 158. And I'm thinking this line should be alright. Might have pulled it a little bit. We'll see if it gets to a good spot though. Yeah, so I mean just pulled it a little bit. I think that was a good distance though. Probably about the right line. Got a bit of a right to left steep slider here. So back to what I mentioned earlier, reading kind of the first half and the back half. Looking kind of right behind where my left foot is, you can see that is a pretty quick right to left. So I'm thinking the start of this putt is going to be pretty severely right to left, and then the end of it, it's still going to be right to left, obviously, but a bit less severe. And it's going to be pretty quick coming down this hill. So I don't want to aim outside of this box, but I think maybe just this kind of right third between the hole and the box should be a good aim point. Maybe just a little bit right of that. Somewhere in there. Ah. So again, I think that's where I kind of wanted to miss. Gonna just be a little breaker coming back up the hill for par. It's a tough one because you can really try and get aggressive with it, but the more aggressive you get, the more risk you run at kind of running it by and then having a trickier comeback. So you do have to balance between how tricky do you want your comeback to be and how aggressive do you want to get for the hole. I think at 8 under right now, I don't feel a ton of pressure to buckle down and get in there, but if you're going for, just the best score possible, trying to make every birdie, probably trying to get a little more aggressive with the line there and the speed. So this is another situation where you gotta be a little careful and kind of what I was talking about earlier. You don't want to leave yourself a pitch here because it's a really steep uphill shot and it's just kind of an awkward distance for that. So I'm going to take a little bit off the driver just to make sure I don't get to inside that 60 yard ish range, and I'll be able to hit an approach shot with my wedge, be able to give myself a better chance for a birdie. So hopefully this doesn't run out too much. Land about 240. See if I can get myself an approach shot in here. All right. So it's about as close as you can play it, but my 60 currently goes a minimum of 69 yards. And then with this wind and this uphill, that definitely should be, honestly about the right number. So I might just play this stock thinking that the wind, it's only going to take off about, I'd say, 3 yards, just considering I'm only hitting this 60 about 70. So it's not going to take off as much as, say, like if I was hitting a 7 iron max distance, it would take off a good 9 yards probably. But when I'm hitting this, it's probably only going to take off about 3. So knowing that, and then the hill's probably going to take off another 3. I'm going to spin it a little bit, and then hopefully this just lands kind of right up next to the hole and bounces up close. Make sure you always want to score with these short wedge shots. See if I can get in there. Almost. Just about one hopped in the hole, but we got about 1 2-footer. Get a little birdie, get to 9 under. Heading into the 18th hole. See if I can get down to 10 under here. Got a bit of a dog leg, and this is one where you're really not going to be able to get a ton of run out. So I'm honestly, with this wind, going to try and play it into this slope and just see if I can land it here and have it run down a bit. Get a little extra distance that way. But yeah, you're really not going to get much of a run out on a hole like this. Not a great tee shot. Maybe I can. Oh, I was hoping that was going to hit the tree and get back into the fairway. But I think I'm going to have to take my medicine here. Play this out to the right. Got a little bit of a gap here. So going to probably play it out here. Keep it short of the bunker. Give myself another one of those wedges. See how many trees you can miss. Alright, that should be fine. So really steep uphill, almost 30 feet, and then not directly into the wind. So this wind is probably going to take off about, half of that, so 4 yards maybe. So I'm thinking probably almost 8, 9 extra yards. You're just thinking kind of with these uphill shots, what club are you hitting and what's the trajectory of that club? So I'm going to have to hit something like a 9 or an 8 iron, probably this 9 iron. And I know that's, it's a bit of a like high lofted iron, so you're probably going to lose a decent amount to this hill, just considering it's not going to get any sort of run out, because when it lands, it's just going to stay there. So, knowing all that, I think I'm probably going to play this to about 145 and then push the right stick up a little bit. So about maybe 146, and then play this out pretty significantly to the right, kind of maybe the middle right side of the green, because you definitely just don't want to on a course like this where you have all these false fronts and these big slopes that'll run you off. You want to make sure you're leaving yourself putts, leaving yourself chances to score, minimizing your up and downs. So I think this will probably be solid. Probably get a little more to the left just with this slope. See how this does. Liking that. Gonna be another reasonable birdie putt. So not a tap in, but I think if you're leaving yourself putts like these, you're definitely not going to make any high numbers, and you're giving yourself a chance to go low, even if you're not too hot with the putter. Giving yourself a chance. So, a little downhill, a little right to left the whole way. I'm going to try and get a little more aggressive with this line. I think it's kind of similar to the putt I missed a couple holes ago, where it's going to be a little more of a breaker at the start, and then it's still going to break at the end, but not quite as severely. But a little extra distance here. I think I'm going to aim kind of I feel like a similar spot to how I aimed last time, but for some reason I just feel like this time will go a little different. There we go. 10 under at the Legends Championship on Thursday. It's a good start to the tournament. Good round there. Only one bogey. Made about, I want to say, 8 birdies and an eagle. So I think key takeaways there. You obviously want to make sure you're cognizant of your lines off the tee, keeping your ball in the fairway. You wouldn't have really noticed because I hit most of the fairways, but if you're getting yourself in the rough, it's going to be a lot tougher to hit greens in regulation because you can't really get the same loft and the same spin. And so if you're trying to hit over bunkers or hit over things and get it close to the pin, you can't really do that out of the rough. So it's obviously key to stay in the fairways. And then with the approach game, taking advantage of those wedge shots. So anytime you get an approach with a wedge, 60, 70 to 150 yards, I'd say you want to really be trying to get your distance right, put a good swing on it, make a birdie, and then with some of the longer par fours and then longer par threes as well, you just gotta take your medicine, try and make a par. Obviously made a bogey on the long par three with that 3 wood on the tee, but try and stay out of the bunkers. If you don't have the pick shot, they'll be tough. But I think that's a bit of a rundown to how I play. So we'll see how I play the rest of this tournament. But that's how Thursday went.